there seems to be a lot going on in this cartoon, so let's just start off by making observations. Let's just start there, and we'll work into some of more of the details. This way, we can draw some conclusions and make some inferences. So, right off the bat, in terms of my observations, I see quite a few people here. Right over here, we seem to have a background. We have more people here in the middle ground, and we have one lone person here in the foreground. Some other observations I'm seeing here. This is definitely a cartoon that has all men in here. They all appear to be wearing hats. Their hats, different quality, different condition, I guess we can say here. Some other observations I can see here as well is this is going to certainly take me to clothing. These gentlemen here definitely have fancier clothing than the people that are in the background, and definitely people in here who are in the foreground, or I should say this guy who's in the foreground, this one lone guy. The cartoonist, though, your eye does take you right over to here, because he has his hands up indicating stop. And he's joined by people to his left and people to his right, almost as if they are all united in that whole stop and trying to hopefully make sure that this guy does not want to take another step forward. Some things I could see here in this middle ground, again, with the hats, there's definitely a difference between the hats. So these hats, these top hats, these are often an indication of people who are wealthy. And of course, since the rest of their clothing and their attire, it seems to be quite pricey, this is definitely the wealthy section. Fancy hat, fancy clothes, really nice shoes here. Over here, when you're looking at this guy over here, there's definitely a difference in terms of the attire. If I'm looking over here, his clothing is quite shabby. If I'm looking right here at the elbow, it looks like we have a patch over here. He probably was in a condition where he wasn't really that well off. Winds up getting a hole in his shirt, can't buy a new one. So the simple fix is just to patch it up. Now, while I look over here at him with his shabby clothing, he does seem to have a little bit more in common with the people here in the background, because their clothing happens to be a little bit shabbier as well. Their hats, not nearly as fancy as the wealthy guys here in the middle. Now, while we're in the background here and we're looking at these shadows, there apparently seems to be a connection here. The cartoonist is trying to make some sort of connection between these guys in the shadows and the people in the middle ground. Well, if I go with him, this gentleman over here, whose waist is much bigger than I would say than the guy right back here. Of course, when we're looking at girth in paintings or in cartoons, this is also another indication that you are wealthy. You are living well because you are eating. Another thing that cartoonists sometimes try to get the point across, along with paintings as well, is that sometimes, depending on the situation, it can be an indication of greed. So what's the connection here? This is certainly not a shadow. So the connection here is that, well, back here, these are the ancestors of the people in the middle ground. This is going to be either their fathers, most likely, or grandfathers. Now, why are they dressed all shabby? Well, they were once, like many people in this country who can trace their roots to somebody who came here from another country. These were immigrants. Right over here, you have an immigrant as well. Now, where is this immigrant? Well, if we look right down here, this board that he's on, this is called the gangplank. So this gangplank, long board, usually fancy if you're on a cruise line, that's going to connect a ship to the docks. This way people can actually walk off a ship rather than jump off and risk injury. He's on this gangplank. The ship has arrived into port. And as you can see here, the ship is tied up. And this guy is trying to enter the United States. Now, judging by clothing, facial features, and style, this was a European immigrant. And these guys in the middle, they don't want him here. Why? Well, you did have a group of people during this particular time period who were referred to as the nativists. And nativists were certainly opposed to immigration, and there's a variety of reasons for it as well. Nativists felt that immigrants took jobs from Americans. They also felt that they brought in diseases over from Europe, or the diseases they may have caught on a ship, because this immigrant right here, he is definitely not riding, or I should say traveling topside on the ship with the fancier rooms, with the better food. He was probably most likely riding down in steerage. And he probably, whatever money he had left, he actually spent that to get on a ship to come to America. And why? Well, in previous lessons, it would have to do with the push-pull factors. There was probably either poverty taking place in his country, land was scarce, he couldn't become a farmer, and he's coming here to America because this is the land of opportunity. So before he even steps foot onto America, you have these wealthy, greedy guys who do not want him to come here because of those reasons. Now, at this point, hopefully the word hypocrite is kind of like flashing in your head, because at one point in time, these guys, these wealthy guys in the middle, their family came here, most likely from Europe, in a very, very similar condition as this immigrant over here, with nothing but the clothes on their back and a couple of bucks in their pocket. Their ancestors, their parents or their grandparents who came over here, they came over here in very, very similar conditions, provided a pretty good life for these guys in the middle over here, and they have been successful. Now this guy is in the same condition as their ancestors, and he doesn't want him over here. So that's quite hypocritical when we're looking at this particular cartoon. This also appeared in Puck magazine, very, very common, very, very popular magazine at the time. A lot of great cartoons that came out of it that we'll be studying this year.